If your income stopped today, how many days until you're owned by fear? Let me ask you something else. How many days until the electricity gets cut? Until the rent notice arrives? Until you're making calls you swore you'd never make? Until you're back in a chair you promised yourself you'd never sit in again? Most people aren't poor because money is hard to earn. They're poor because they're predictable. And predictability is the most expensive tax you'll ever pay. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. If I can guess your next move, I can price your life. If I know you'll show up at 8, leave at 5, and never ask dangerous questions, I know exactly what you're worth. And it's less than you think. Wealth isn't complicated. It's not hidden in some secret vault or reserved for people born into the right zip code. Wealth is permissionless. The only fee is courage, and most people won't pay it. They'd rather stay comfortable than become free. Today, I'm going to show you the Machiavellian way to money, not the sanitized version they teach in schools, not the motivational poster nonsense about passion and dreams. The real game, the one that's been played for 500 years by people who understood power, perception, and the brutal arithmetic of value. Niccolò Machiavelli studied power the way surgeons study anatomy, without anesthesia, without sentiment, without the comforting lies we tell ourselves to sleep better at night. He understood something fundamental. Money flows to those who face reality as it is, not as schools, slogans, or comfort want it to be. Most people operate inside a fantasy. They believe that hard work equals reward, that loyalty equals security, that playing by the rules equals winning. These are beautiful stories. They're also expensive delusions. The masses trade time. They sell hours for dollars, presents for paychecks, attention for wages. This is the oldest trap in history, and it's still the most crowded. The few trade ownership, control, and multiplication. They don't sell time. They sell systems, leverage, and compounding value. That's the entire game. Everything else is decoration. You want to know why some people build wealth that lasts generations while others work 40 years and retire with nothing? It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's not even effort. It's understanding which game is actually being played. And here's the part that stings. Most people are playing a game they didn't choose, with rules they didn't write, on a board that was designed for them to lose slowly enough that they don't revolt. Predictable lives are easy to tax, schedule, and underpay. If your routine can be modeled, your outcome can be capped. Think about that. If someone can predict where you'll be, what you'll do, and how you'll respond, they can determine your price ceiling. And they will. Every predictable person is a solved equation. Employers know this. Markets know this. Systems know this. That's why the predictable always get the smallest slice. Workers ask for raises inside rules they didn't write. They negotiate within boundaries someone else drew. They ask permission to earn more, to work differently, to break the pattern. And the answer is almost always maybe next year. Owners write the rules. They don't ask for raises. They take equity. They don't negotiate inside someone else's frame. They build their own frame and invite others to play inside it. Here's what this looks like in practice. Two people with identical skills, identical hours, identical effort. One follows the template, clocks in, executes tasks, waits for approval. The other identifies a gap, builds a solution, owns the distribution, and captures the margin. 10 years later, one has a resume, the other has a portfolio of assets. The difference isn't talent, it's predictability. Action step. Break one predictability loop this week. Launch something in a new market. Learn a skill nobody expects from you. Make an offer that scares you. Change your price. Shift your positioning. Do something that makes your current circle say, "I didn't know you did that." If nothing changes in your calendar, nothing changes in your bank account. Predictability is comfort. Comfort is the most expensive drug in the world. Stability is a story told by those who sell it. Let me be clear, the safe path is risky, not because it's unstable, but because it never compounds. It trades the possibility of multiplication for the guarantee of incrementalism. Jobs vanish, entire industries collapse overnight, currencies melt, pension funds evaporate, companies that promised lifetime employment don't make it to lunch. The so-called secure ladder you've been climbing, it's leaning against the wrong building, and the building is on fire. Meanwhile, the risky path of ownership, creation, and controlled leverage. That's where compounding lives. That's where one good decision pays you for a decade. The masses sprint towards safety and call it wisdom. They diversify their time across employers who see them as expenses. They save in currencies that lose value by design. They avoid risk so aggressively that they guarantee a mediocre outcome. Here's the Machiavellian insight. The appearance of safety is more dangerous than visible risk. Visible risk makes you careful, strategic, awake. Invisible risk, the kind disguised as stability, makes you complacent. And complacency is financial suicide. Action step. Move 10 to 20% of your weekly hours from maintenance mode to build mode. Stop spending all your time protecting what you have and start allocating attention to what you could own. Build a product, grow an audience, create distribution, engineer deal flow. Maintenance keeps you alive. Building makes you rich. You need both. But most people are 100% maintenance, 0% build. That's why they stay exactly where they are. Here's the metaphor that changes everything. Money is a river. The poor wait on the shore for splashes. They hope someone upstream throws them a bonus, a tip, a lucky break. They're grateful for the spray. They call it a blessing, and they wait for the next one. The rich build pipes. They don't wait on the shore. They don't beg the river. They engineer infrastructure that redirects the flow. Same river, different ownership. Your life is either a bucket or infrastructure. If you're holding a bucket, you can only carry what you can physically move. You trade time for water, effort for droplets. It's exhausting, it's finite, and it stops the moment you stop. If you build infrastructure, the river works for you. Pipes don't get tired, systems don't take weekends. Leverage doesn't need motivation. This is the entire wealth game in one image. The river doesn't care about your intentions, your effort, or your story. It flows to whoever builds the best pipes. And if you refuse to build, you'll spend your life begging for splashes. Now we get into the mechanics. These are the 4 moves that separate people who talk about wealth from people who build it. They're simple, they're not easy, and they require you to act like an owner, not a worker. Move number 1, own. Don't just work for something, own something. A product, a list, a license, a channel, equity in a small but scaling vehicle, royalties, distribution rights, intellectual property. It doesn't matter what, as long as it's yours, and it generates value independent of your presence. 1% of a machine beats 100% of a shift, every single time. Here's the shift. Most people think in terms of jobs. They ask, who will pay me? Owners ask, what can I build that people will pay for, even when I'm not in the room? That question changes everything. You don't need a billion-dollar company. You need something that makes money while you sleep, while you travel, while you're building the next thing. A course that sells on autopilot, a product with recurring subscriptions, a service business with documented systems and trained operators, a piece of software, a media library, a small portfolio of cash-flowing assets. Prompt yourself weekly. What can I sell that doesn't require my presence? If the answer is nothing, you're still trading time. And time is the one asset you can't recover. Ownership is the difference between earning and building. Workers earn until they stop. Owners build until it compounds. Let me give you a concrete example. 2 people. One works as a consultant, billing by the hour. Skilled, experienced, in demand. Makes $200,000 a year. Sounds great, right? Except every dollar requires another hour. Get sick? No income. Take a vacation? No income. Want to scale? Can't. There are only so many hours. The other person? Same skills, same experience. But instead of billing hours, they package their knowledge into a course, a software tool, a membership. They spend 6 months building it. They make nothing during that time. Their friends think they're crazy. Then they launch. First month, 5,000 in sales. Second month, 8,000. By month 12, they're at 30,000 a month. By month 24, 60,000. And here's the key. Whether they work or not, the sales happen. The system runs. The asset pays. That's ownership. That's the game. Move number 2. Engineer desire. People don't buy products. They buy status, safety, significance, and the feeling of moving toward a better version of themselves. Machiavelli understood human nature without romance. He wrote that men are moved by fear and desire, and he was right. Everything you sell, every offer you make, every piece of value you position must connect to one of those two forces. Fear of loss, fear of irrelevance, fear of being left behind, exposed, outpaced, replaced. Desire for status, desire for freedom, desire to be seen, admired, chosen, respected. Your job isn't to create value. Your job is to position value so clearly that the decision feels inevitable. This means understanding category leadership. It means scarcity. It means social proof. It means deadlines. It means making it obvious that choosing you is the smart move and ignoring you is the expensive mistake. Rule: if the market can't tell why you're different in 7 seconds, you're invisible. Not better, not cheaper, different, distinct, positioned so clearly that comparison becomes irrelevant. Most people bury their value in jargon, humility, and vague descriptions. They're afraid to make bold claims. They're afraid to sound arrogant, so they sound like everyone else, and they get ignored. Here's the Machiavellian move. Clarity is more valuable than perfection. A clear, bold, slightly controversial position beats a safe, polished, forgettable one every single time. People don't buy what you do. They buy who you are to them. Are you the cheapest, the fastest, the most exclusive, the only one who does it this way, the one everyone's talking about? Pick one. Own it. Engineer every signal around it. Think about luxury brands. They're not better. They're positioned better. A handbag that costs $5,000 doesn't hold more than a handbag that costs $50. But one signals wealth, taste, belonging to a certain class. That's not a product. That's engineered desire. You're doing the same thing, just in your domain. You're not selling features. You're selling transformation, identity, status, safety. The person who understands this wins. The person who doesn't stays broke and confused. Move number 3. Build systems, not shifts. One video can be watched 1 million times. One funnel can convert for years. One standard operating procedure can train 100 people. One automation can save 10,000 hours. Tasks feed today, systems feed forever. This is the shift from linear to exponential. Most people work in shifts. They do a thing, get paid, and do it again. Every dollar requires a new action. It's manual, it's exhausting, and it doesn't scale. Owners build systems. They document, automate, delegate, and multiply. They convert labor into infrastructure. They spend a week building something that works for a decade. Action step. Each week, convert one repeating task into a document, an automation, or a hire. Replace yourself systematically. Every time you say, "I'm the only one who can do this," you're building a prison. The goal isn't to be indispensable. The goal is to be replaceable in execution and irreplaceable in vision. Here's what that looks like. You record yourself doing a task. You document it. You turn it into a checklist or a video tutorial. You hire someone at a lower cost per hour. You train them once. Now that task is off your plate forever, and you've created leverage. You build a content system. You create once, distribute everywhere, and let algorithms and audiences do the scaling. One piece of content becomes 10. 10 becomes 100. 100 become 1,000,000 impressions. You build a sales system. You map the journey. You script the emails. You automate the follow-up. You A divided by B test the landing page. Now your offer sells while you sleep. Systems are the difference between self-employed and business owner. Self-employed people own a job. Business owners own a machine. Which one are you building? Here's the brutal part most people miss. Building systems feels inefficient at first. It's faster to just do the task yourself. But that's short-term thinking. You save an hour today and lose 1,000 hours over the next year. The Machiavellian approach is always long-term. Sacrifice speed now for multiplication later. Spend the week building the machine, even if you could have just done the work. Because next month, next year, the machine is still running, and you're building the next one. Move number 4. Protect and multiply. Making money is a sprint. Keeping money is a fortress. Multiplying money is a discipline. Most people optimize for the sprint. They chase income, they celebrate the big month, they spend the windfall. Then they wake up 5 years later with nothing to show for it. The Machiavellian approach is different. Treat every dollar as a soldier. Deploy it to battlefields that return prisoners. Don't spend it on applause. Spend it on assets that compound. Real estate that generates cash flow. Media libraries that produce royalties. Distribution rights that pay you forever. Boring, unsexy, compounding cash flow. Here's the rule. Spend for strategy, not status. Status spending is a drug. It feels good for a weekend, then it's gone. Strategic spending builds the machine. It's software that automates. It's a team member who multiplies your output. It's a skill that increases your pricing power. It's an asset that pays you monthly. Rich people buy time, leverage, and compounding assets. Poor people buy applause, comfort, and depreciating liabilities. The difference isn't income, it's allocation. You also need defense. Wealth attracts predators, contracts, legal structures, insurance, privacy. These aren't optional. They're the walls around the fortress. And multiplication requires patience. The first 10,000 is the hardest. The first 100,000 feels impossible. Then it starts compounding. Then it accelerates. Then it becomes inevitable. But only if you protect it long enough for compounding to work. Let me tell you what happens to most people who make their first big payday. They've been broke for years. Suddenly, 50,000 hits the account, or 100,000. And the first thought is, finally, I can relax. Finally, I can buy the thing. Finally, I can celebrate. So they do. They upgrade the car. They take the trip. They buy the watch. And 6 months later, they're back to zero, wondering why nothing changed. Here's what should happen. You take that 50,000 and you deploy it. 10,000 into skills that increase your earning power. 20,000 into assets that generate cash flow. 10,000 into systems that automate your business. 5,000 into marketing that scales your reach. 5,000 reserved for opportunities. Now that 50,000 isn't gone, it's working, it's multiplying, and next year, it's 75,000, then 100, then 200. That's wealth. The other way is just a temporary dopamine hit. Perception opens doors reality cannot reach yet. Machiavelli wrote that men judge by the eye more than the hand. In other words, people believe what they see before they investigate what's true. This isn't cynical, it's mechanical. Humans process visually, socially, and emotionally before they process logically. Your job is to craft an image aligned with truth, not fake, not inflated. Align, clean brand, consistent signal, zero neediness. If your website looks like it was built in 2008, people assume your thinking is outdated. If your communication is chaotic, people assume your systems are broken. If you appear disparate, people assume you're failing. Appear in demand, and you will be. This doesn't mean lie. It means eliminate friction between your value and how it's perceived. Professional visuals, clear messaging, proof of competence, social validation, testimonials, case studies, media mentions. Every signal either builds trust or creates doubt. There's no neutral. Here's the hard part. Most people signal. They have real value but present it poorly. They're competent but look uncertain. They're experienced but sound generic. So the market discounts them. The Machiavellian move: control every signal. Your appearance, your language, your environment, your associations. Everything communicates. Make sure it communicates strength, clarity, and confidence. Not arrogance. Confidence. There's a difference. Arrogance repels. Confidence attracts. Think about this. Two people with identical skills. One has a polished website, clear messaging, testimonials, case studies, a consistent content presence. The other has a generic LinkedIn, vague descriptions, no social proof. Who gets the opportunity? Who gets the higher price? Who gets trusted faster? The market doesn't have time to investigate everyone, so it uses shortcuts, signals, proxies. And if your signals are weak, you lose before you even start. This is why personal brand matters, why design matters, why storytelling matters. Not because it's fake, because it's the interface between your value and the world's perception. And perception is the currency that buys access. Rise invites envy, leeches, and friendly sabotage. The moment you start winning, three things happen. People you thought were allies start undermining you. People you helped start resenting you. People you never met start spreading rumors. This isn't personal, it's predictable. Machiavelli wrote extensively about envy. He understood that success doesn't just attract admiration, it attracts resentment, and resentment is more motivated than admiration. Expect betrayal, use contracts, say no often. Keep your circle competent, not comfortable. Here's what most people get wrong. They think loyalty is automatic. They think helping people creates gratitude. Sometimes it does. Often it creates entitlement, dependency, and resentment when you stop. The Machiavellian approach. Generosity is strategy, not weakness. Give when it builds leverage, reputation, or goodwill you can deploy. Don't give out of guilt, obligation, or the need to be liked. Naivety is a liability. The higher you climb, the more people will smile while sharpening knives. This doesn't mean become paranoid. It means become discerning. Calm is your armor. When people attack, they're looking for a reaction. Don't give it to them. Stay composed. Stay focused. Let your results be the response. Protect your attention. Protect your time. Protect your reputation. These are your only non-renewable resources. And understand this. The price of wealth isn't just hard work. It's isolation, envy, and the loneliness of operating at a level most people will never understand. If you're not willing to pay that price, stay comfortable. There's no judgment in that. But don't complain about the outcome. Here's a story you need to hear. A friend builds a successful business, 7 figures in revenue, employs 20 people, provides for his family, lives well. His old friends, they stop calling. They make jokes about him selling out. They interpret his success as judgment of their choices. He didn't change. Their insecurity did. His family, they start asking for money, not loans, gifts, expectations. When he says no, he's labeled selfish. When he says yes, they come back for more. His employees, some are loyal, some steal, some build competing businesses using everything he taught them. This is the game. This is the price. And if you're not prepared for it, the money won't feel like freedom. It'll feel like a target. Workers ask, how much per hour? Owners ask, what asset pays me when I'm not there? The day you switch that question, your timeline to freedom compresses. Here's the fundamental difference. Workers think in terms of transactions. How much for this task? How much for this project? How much for this month? Owners think in terms of assets. What can I build once that pays forever? What can I create that scales without me? What can I own that appreciates, compounds, and produces cash flow? This isn't just a mindset shift. It's a rewiring of how you see value. A worker sees a Saturday and thinks, no one's paying me, so I'm not working. An owner sees a Saturday and thinks, what can I build today that makes me money next Saturday, and the Saturday after that, and every Saturday for the next 10 years? One is trading time for money. The other is trading time for leverage. And leverage is the only way out. You can't work your way to wealth. The math doesn't support it. Even if you make 200,000 a year, after taxes, after living expenses, after the years it takes to save, you're still decades away from freedom. And that's assuming nothing goes wrong. But if you own something, if you build something, if you create leverage, the math changes completely. One product that makes 5,000 a month is 60,000 a year. Passive, recurring, scalable. 2 products, 120,000. 3, 180. And none of them require you to show up. That's the shift. From hours to assets, from tasks to systems, from employed to owner. Most people never make this shift because it requires risk, uncertainty, and the willingness to fail in public. It's easier to stay employed, stay predictable, stay safe. But safety is the slowest path to freedom, and for most people, it's no path at all. Let's talk about the part nobody mentions. The transition is brutal. You don't go from employed to wealthy overnight. There's a middle phase. It's uncomfortable, it's uncertain, and most people quit here. You're building while still working. You're tired. You're sacrificing weekends. Your friends think you're obsessed. Your family thinks you're irresponsible. And for months, maybe years, you're making less than you would if you just stayed in your lane. This is where most people break. They can't handle the gap between where they are and where they're going. They can't handle watching others relax while they're grinding. They can't handle the judgment, the doubt, the fear that maybe it won't work. But here's what they don't see. That gap is the filter. It's designed to eliminate everyone who isn't serious. It's the price of admission. The people who make it aren't smarter. They're not more talented. They just refuse to quit during the gap. They keep building when results are invisible. They keep showing up when nobody's watching. They keep investing when the return isn't clear. And one day, it clicks. The system works. The asset pays. The leverage compounds. And suddenly, they're 10 years ahead of everyone who quit. Let me bring this home. Machiavelli wasn't loved. He wasn't popular. He wasn't the guy people invited to dinner parties. But he understood power, and he wrote it down without apology. The principles he documented 500 years ago are still true because human nature doesn't change. Fear and desire, perception and reality, leverage and control. These are the variables that determine who wins and who doesn't. Money is just one scoreboard, but it's the one that buys time, options, and freedom. And freedom is the only asset that matters. Here's what I want you to understand. You don't need permission. You don't need a degree, a network, a lucky break, or a perfect plan. You need clarity, courage, and the willingness to act while others are still preparing. The game is simple. Own something, engineer desire, build systems, protect and multiply. The execution is hard because it requires you to face reality without the comforting lies. It requires you to be predictable to no one and accountable to yourself. It requires you to build when others are consuming, to stay calm when others are panicking, to move when others are paralyzed. Most people won't do this. They'll watch this video, nod along, feel inspired for 48 hours, and then return to the exact same routine. The same predictable life. The same capped outcome. That's fine. The game needs workers. The system needs predictable people. There's no shame in that. But if you're still here, if you're still listening, if something in you refuses to accept the default path, then you already know what to do. Break the predictability, build the asset, engineer the perception, protect the outcome. The river doesn't care about your effort. It flows to whoever builds the best pipes. So build, and remember this. In 5 years, you'll either have 5 years of excuses or 5 years of assets. The choice is yours. The time is now, and nobody's coming to save you. That's not cynical. That's liberation. You are your own rescue. Act like it.